What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Disorderly Podcast. Nick, or my name's Nick, but I'm here with David St. Martin as well, which this is the first time we've... Oh, no, that's not true. I was going to say this is the first time since the first episode that we're back together, but I think we did do one with Damon Martin where it was the three of us. As I've said multiple times, I think we're kind of living up to the name, The Disorderly, at least until we figure out more of a set format. Maybe it'll always stay like this, but the content's going to be good. So, in this episode, I think, do you want to just start right in with The Punisher? There's some Hulu shows. I actually don't have a Hulu subscription, and I know that you have a couple that you wanted to talk about. We can get into Hulu in general, actually, because I have some questions about that, but we can start right off with our commonality with The Punisher, and then I believe we're going to get into Three Billboards. You and your wife sat down and talked about that. Yeah, so you want to start right off The Punisher?
Yeah, no, so I mean, so we're trying to find some common things that we both watch, and then we'll talk about some things that each of us watched independently. But yeah, go for it. I enjoyed The Punisher. What did you think?
No, me too. And I think that that's something... Actually, I heard that, you know, some of the more, not nerdier outlets, I don't know what to call it, but some of the more like deep cut outlets actually gave it good reviews, a lot of them. But the review that I saw right off the bat was just the Rotten Tomatoes score, and it wasn't that good. And I was kind of... I wrote this in my review for The Disorderly, but I was kind of watching it looking for like reasons why critics wouldn't like it, and I really couldn't find any. Like I loved it personally.
Yeah, no, I saw that because what is it hovering at, like in the low 60s or something right now?
Yeah, it was like 60 when I first saw it, because I like wrote it, I jotted it down on that Friday. It was like 67, and then I think when I wrote the review like a week later, it was down to 62. So
yeah, no, I didn't go back and I think I saw that it wasn't getting great reviews, but I didn't actually go and read them. But yeah, I don't know, man. It's weird. I don't know. I think The Punisher is always kind of like a back of the bus character. You know what I mean? So you combine that kind of with the violence and the military and the police and the guns and I mean, who knows? I mean, maybe it's not a great climate for a Punisher series right now. I don't know.
That's a thought that went through my head when the whole like Vegas shooting thing happened, because I know that was like right around the hype of all the Punishers coming out, and like the whole thing with Punisher is just like this hero you're supposed to root for him, and he's got this whole arsenal of guns and he's killing people and stuff. And obviously the shooting thing's been a hot topic issue forever, but just when the Vegas thing was going on, and then they were kind of still promoting Punisher, and I was like, ugh. I was hoping they didn't like pull the production all together. Like I was a little worried they were going to like delay the release or something like that, and I'm glad they didn't, because I think you have to be able to separate those two things. But yeah, who knows? That could have affected reviews for sure.
Yeah, no, I don't understand. I mean, the Punisher is an anti-hero. He's not a superhero. I mean, he's not. You know what I mean? He's a super damaged dude, kind of out seeking revenge. And I don't know. I think I think my favorite kind of comics of my favorite version of were kind of the Garth Ennis, who also wrote a Preacher, if you're into that, in the AMC series. But I think in his run, his forward to his run, he was at some talk in England, and he was talking about how he liked the Punisher. I'm trying to recall this, but he basically gets like totally shit on for saying that he even liked the Punisher as a character. And they were like, "Oh, he's just a goon, you know. He's not a hero. He's not a real character. He's just an asshole." Blah blah blah. But yeah, I don't know. I enjoyed this kind of independently of the Marvel universe. I don't think you needed to. You could have written that story and called him Bob Meyerowitz and had nothing about the Punisher, nothing about the Marvel Cinematic Universe, no other comic book characters. This could have been just a Jason Bourne movie. This could have been any other series. It could have been the crappy, Kit Harington MI5 movie. It could have been an HBO show. So I don't know. I don't know if it didn't get the love because it wasn't enough of kind of a Marvel property. I don't know. I'll get into it later with Runaways, but I'm like grasping at straws trying to figure out kind of what they're trying to do. There is no real Marvel feel right now. Everything is all over the place. So yeah. Yeah, no, it's interesting because and this kind of is a recurring thing on this show. We talk about this, but I'm not that big into the comic book. Like I have general knowledge of it. I like movies and TV shows and whatever. So like I understand some of that universe, but I'm not as deep into it as other people. So I think I'm sort of the perfect target for a show like Punisher, which, like you said, there's some crossover. Not even really. You have the girl from Daredevil. Right.
For the most part, it's completely like standalone projects. I know that that John Bernthal as the Punisher appeared in some other shows as well, but like for the most part, this is its own thing, like you said. And it's not there's no superpowers. Like he's really good at shooting, I guess, but for the most part, it's just like a military like revenge. Like that's all it is. It's not even like so it doesn't have a comic book feel to it at all, at least in my opinion. And I think I could see how if you were looking for that, it has the Marvel name on it, all that. I could see how that would maybe be disappointing. Me personally, like I was like, I don't know, I kind of like it. I kind of like that this doesn't have a. It was like a standalone story, and it was good. And the acting was amazing, I thought. I mean, I'm a big John Bernthal guy anyway, but the surrounding cast, the villain, which I mean, I feel like the face of the villain changed a few times throughout the season or whatever. Like sometimes you thought it was one guy and whatever. I think that was all good. I don't know, man. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, I mean, do you want to open it up to spoilers, or do you want to just still keep it? It's been out for a couple weeks now?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess, I mean...
I say we just go for it.
Yeah, sure.
Go for it. I mean, because it's been out, people. It's been out. So we really haven't spoken... We haven't said anything spoilerific up to this point. Other that we liked it or we didn't like it or this or that. But I mean, or the feel. So... Yeah, if you haven't finished it or you are going to go back and maybe pause it, maybe fast forward. But yeah, you've been warned, I guess. You know what I mean?
You know what I could do too, just in general, before we like get to spoilers? I can go through, it's not that hard for me to do. I can go through and like timestamp certain things. So I can like put in the timestamp of you guys talking about Three Billboards. So if people like don't want to hear anything else about spoilers, then we probably won't like do any in a callback or whatever. We'll keep it its own thing. Cool. So if you want to watch The Punisher and you haven't watched it yet and you're afraid of spoilers, just go to the like description and you can skip to whatever time. Cool. So we'll do that. So from here on out, spoilers on The Punisher. Yeah. So this is another thing because I'm not that big into the comic books as we keep going back to. So I didn't know who like the villain of the Punisher is. Mm-hmm. So the Jigsaw reveal, which I think was like kind of the big moment or whatever. And maybe if you're into the comics, you probably knew who that guy was all along. I didn't. So to realize that guy becomes Jigsaw, I thought was really cool.
Yeah, no, I mean I'm not the biggest. We can get Damon back in here or something like that, or we can go get Volpe or somebody. But yeah, neither of us are super extensive. I kind of have a fun. I read some stuff here and there. Got a nice little collection, but I'm no authority on this stuff. And, but it is just kind of fun to see what changes they made, especially with Micro, who is kind of the classic man in the chair, you know what I mean, to the superhero, right? So some of the changes that they made to his character were pretty interesting from kind of the books. And some of the books that I like, he's kind of like almost a kind of super overweight, almost kind of an old Newman type character.
Yeah, that's like the artist renditions I saw on like Google Images all had him like, I don't know why, I just like to do this whenever I'm watching these real versions of this. Sure, I like to just Google like what they look like in the comics because it's completely foreign to me. And I saw that Newman is exactly how I describe him in the comics.
Yeah, and I love the changes that they made. I love that they kind of humanized him a little bit, that they because he is kind of everything that he is in the show a little bit, of kind of this insane hacker type. And I think they softened him a little bit because you just had so much brutality in the show that you kind of wanted someone else to root for. You cared about, David's family and things like that. And you kind of were, I think that's sort of the redeeming part of that character that they wanted to introduce, and not just kind of this, sort of under the kind of, not cold-hearted exactly, but he's, I think, closer to Frank in the comics. You know what I mean? A little bit more hardened. That was always my take on him. So this kind of, I like the take that it was a little bit softer, he was more of a foil. In the comics, I feel he's more complementary to Frank, whereas this was a balancing act. And I think it worked when they were on screen together. They got along, they argued, they fought, it just worked better with him a little bit lighter.
Yeah, and I think I wrote in my review, and you mentioned this with basically caring about his family. Like, I was almost as invested in his storyline and his plot as Frank, which I think is tough to do with a side character. And he also, the other thing that's tough to do, I think, from a writing perspective, is have him be the comic relief and sort of lighten up certain scenes without becoming like a clown. Because I feel like he wasn't. It was subtle. Like, I think he did have a very serious like energy to him. It wasn't like he was like the ha 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 guy in every scene. But there were like little jabs and stuff that it might make you smile watching it. It wasn't like laugh out loud funny, and that's kind of what you needed. Just enough to make it to alleviate some of the heaviness that Punisher like naturally brings.
Right. I mean, I love the whole dynamic kind of running in the background of Frank interacting with Micro's wife and the kids, and David not really knowing how he felt about it. Does he feel better that this guy is interacting with his family? Is he horrified? Is he kind of feel like he kind of goes back and forth? Is he feeling threatened? I love that kind of dynamic that you're kind of questioning, is the wife kind of getting more and more into Frank, and then we kind of eventually see that she kind of gets a little wine in her and goes in for a kiss and stuff like that. But I love that whole dynamic of and I don't know how you feel about this. Did you feel creeped out that he had cameras everywhere and he was spying on his family, or did you feel like, oh, he's doing a good thing by keeping an eye on them?
It's tough to say. I think it's a complicated answer, like on purpose. I think there's two sides to it. On one hand, I think it's okay, and that's kind of just like fits his like he's like that's his thing. He's computer hacker or whatever. It almost just makes sense that he's spying on his family, and it's a way for him to kind of like watch over them. I don't think it was like a jealousy thing, but then when you see Frank in there, and Frank didn't know there's cameras in there, and he finds out like later or whatever. But like at first, I feel like that because he looks like he was jealously watching, and he's been dead, quote unquote, for whatever it was,
I think
a year.
It was a year, right?
Yeah. So all of a sudden, if his wife like decides to date or something, like I feel like it would get creepy fast, where he would be like jealous or try to like break it up or something, just because that's natural. So I think it's nice when he's trying to make sure his family's safe, but then that could easily be twisted into if he sees something he doesn't like, who knows how you'd react to that. So it's definitely creepy on face level. But I think his intentions are good.
I don't think he ever turns those cameras off. If she's having a date with some guy, there's no way he's not watching every
right.
minute of that, which is creepy.
Yep.
All right, what else? I think they've got enough to kind of go forward with, despite the kind of mixed reviews, I guess. I don't know. There's no way. I have liked / tolerated kind of all of the other Netflix. I loved the first season of Daredevil. I soldiered through the second season. Iron Fist was kind of brutal. Jessica Jones I liked, and
there's still only one season of Jessica Jones, right?
Right. No, they still haven't done more of that. I think they're working on it.
Because that was the original, right? Wasn't that the first Netflix?
No, Daredevil.
Oh, Daredevil was first. You're right.
Yeah, and then Luke Cage I like, but again, it's like I watch an episode and I'll take 2-3 months off. Like it never does enough for me to pull me in. And all of those properties have kind of like a greasy sheen to them, where they're a little bit hokey. You know what I mean? They're just a little bit cartoony. And it really comes out, I think, in Daredevil when they're talking. I mean, the worst is probably Iron Fist for this, but in Daredevil, when they're like, I've been, it's just so dated to me, where they talk about like, I've got to protect Hell's Kitchen. My old man was a boxer back in the, like we're in the 30s or 20s or something, or even Karen, the Karen Page character. This city used to stand for something, and now it's blah, blah, blah. And her interactions with homeboy, what's his name? Who's
the lawyer guy?
Yeah, the lawyer guy. What's his name?
Fogel or
huh?
Isn't it like Fogel or something?
No, come on. I'm trying to remember his name.
He's in.
I can't remember his freaking name. I don't know.
Look it up.
People are.
He's in. Isn't he also in like Butterfly Effect? Am I making that up? I feel like he's the best friend or something.
Man, you tell me, dude.
That's a deep cut.
Yeah, no, I know. I knew he was in Mighty Ducks. That's for me. He'll always be Fulton from Mighty Ducks. You know what I mean?
Fogey.
Fogey. There you go. Yeah.
I said Fogel. You're acting like I was like a mile away. That's pretty.
No. I'm gonna mock you for watching the Butterfly Effect. Fogel's fine.
First of all, the Butterfly Effect came out. I was like in 4th or 5th grade. I feel like I was a target audience for it. And Ashton Kutcher is one of the best actors of all time.
How are you? Are you kidding? Do you remember? I mean, there's some dark shit in the Butterfly Effect. Remember when he's talking about blowing the cellmates so they don't kill him?
Yeah, dude. How about he throws a dog in a campfire in the woods?
I mean, but like, why would you? There's no way that you're a target audience when you're in 4th grade for that horrible movie.
Yeah, well, maybe though, because it's like for me, it's like I'm a kid that's watching a movie I shouldn't be watching, which has an appeal to it. Also, I'm not going to notice the finer points of acting. So it's kind of perfect for it.
Yeah, no,
I haven't seen it since then, but I liked it when I was 12 or whatever.
Oof. Man, that was brutal. And they made a couple of sequels to that, I think.
Though, yeah, I watched Butterfly Effect 2 at some point. Like, I don't know why it was on TV. I watched like a scene of it. It's maybe the worst movie of all time.
That movie is kind of the perfect example of what not to do, of kind of like this like mid 2000s, early 2000s kind of like disgusting like Breaking Bad soundtrack with like a white trash sheen and like crystal meth and trailer parks and 8 Mile and I don't know what was about that time that they just loved making movies about kind of just like sad, gross meth addiction, opioid like, you know what I mean? Like I don't know what was going on in that time period where we just had so much music by Stained and Breaking Bad, Benjamin, and kind of like I love some Stained, but you know what I mean? Kind of that like Warped Tour kind of like emo hardcore crappy music. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do. I know exactly what you're talking about. I've been to the Warped Tour one time too.
I bet
You're
you
finding
have.
out all sorts of things about me.
Did they cancel Warped Tour?
I don't know.
Right.
I went when I was in around the same time, like fifth,
Jesus.
sixth grade or something. The headline acts were Under Oath and Paramore. So there you go.
Well, but that's Under Oath. I remember, and Paramore. They're a little. That's more Pac Sunny. I'm talking meth. I'm talking like crystal meth, addiction, like suicide,
Like the
cigarette
Used?
smoking craziness.
Yeah, The Used is a good.
Yeah,
the lead singer looks like he's on drugs.
Oh, he absolutely is. What are you talking about?
Yeah, you're right.
All right,
well,
really veered off course there.
Yeah, back to the Punisher real quick. So, what did you think of? So they had so Dina Madani.
Mm-hmm. She was great.
I thought she was awesome. The only you mentioned the cartoonishness of like the other Marvel shows. I feel like Sam Stein was that a little bit. It was okay. It wasn't that big of an impact on the show.
Yeah, you're right.
I wasn't a huge fan of. It was just like he kept getting kicked out of rooms too. It's like we have this room. It happened like 5 different times in the movie or in the show. But yeah, he was a small enough character where it didn't really affect me. Although I wasn't a huge fan of it, but I thought Madani was great. Yeah.
Yeah, no, she was great, and I kind of loved the the background of her kind of being a hard ass and her having to deal with her kind of the family pressures, and then kind of just going against that completely, and just shacking up and banging the bad boy kind of contractor. I like weird characters like that just totally kind of fuck authority, you know what I mean? Like just this, I'm not gonna listen to my boss, I'm not gonna listen to my mom, just gonna do what I want and do what I feel like I need to do.
Well, I feel like as far as all these characters, they were all really complicated. Like it wasn't like a clear-cut good guy or bad guy, which is kind of what the Punisher is anyway. I feel like he has some bad guy elements to him,
Right.
but you're kind of rooting for him. Even the villain, like what's his name? Because Jigsaw's character's name, but what's the
Bobby?
shit?
Billy? Bill.
Billy.
Bill.
Even him, he's technically the bad guy, and obviously he kind of gets there. He doesn't start. He starts as the good guy, sort of, and or at least complicated, and then he has a character arc or whatever. But even when he's like doing the final showdown with Punisher, it's still like he kind of seems like a good guy in certain ways. He's got these kids hostages, which definitely that's more on the air of the bad guy move. But he's got like he's still complicated. I feel like everyone was like kind of good, kind of bad. And no one was really, which I think is great because I think sometimes superhero type movies or comic book movies sort of get too into like this guy's clearly good and this guy's evil. Like I think it's good to have the complications mixed in.
Yeah, no, I mean, because I think the best villains, they always say this is becoming a real, like, you just hear this everywhere, but the best villains don't think they're actual bad guys and all that. And it's true, but it's just been beaten to death. But yeah, he doesn't think that, he's doing what he needs to do where he feels entitled to it or he feels owed or, it's just interesting because, yeah, man, like just in my own personal experience of knowing a lot of ex-military people and contractors and things like that. I mean, I've either worked out with them or trained with them or known them from, other parts of my family and things like that. They are an interesting breed of person. You know what I mean? So it's just an interesting. It's an interesting way to portray that on screen, and they did it in a few different ways. I think they did it better with Bill, And then the poor kid who becomes kind of a homegrown terrorist, I felt was kind of a gross way to show what could happen too. You know what I mean? I didn't really enjoy that whole part of it. I don't know. What was that kid's name? Lewis?
Yeah, Lewis. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I didn't. I don't know, man. I just, that whole subplot with him being a bomber and stuff. I mean, I was like, ugh, it feels a little forced in here. You've got a lot of, you've got a lot of different facets and things you could, with the, Agent Orange and the CIA and stuff like that. And you got Billy, and it just felt weird that you were going to dedicate a good 4 episodes or something to catching this kid. You know
I almost thought that he was going to end up being like the big villain because they dedicated so much time to him, and I was like, what's going on? Like, I almost felt like he was, but then he wasn't. Then he was like, I think he's out of the picture, I don't know, 3/4 of the way through or something, and then he just is not part of the plot. So yeah, it was a lot of time dedicated to something that seems like, a side plot at best.
Right. Yeah. No, it's a weird thing. I don't know. I was a little disappointed with that because I just felt like, that's really going to piss a lot of people off. And for what? And you know what I mean? It wasn't there was no great payoff. It was just sad. You know what I mean? So it just it painted a lot of people who come back with a very broad brush. Like, oh, you're one bad day away, or you're one bad job rejection away from just becoming a bomber. You know what I mean? I was like, this kid doesn't get this job, and the next thing he's taking people hostage and killing it, and he goes from 0 to 60 like real quick, where he kills kind of the stolen valor old nom vet, kills him. Oh man, now I'm a killer. Oh well, I'll start just bombing buildings and stuff. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah.
And the Second Amendment thing, and gun rights becomes. I mean, he goes from championing gun rights to being a bomber. I was like, whoa, that's a big jump, like real quick. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, 100%. I will say, I think he did a good job acting that role. Sure. Like, I think the actor did a good job, but yeah, it definitely sort of forced in there.
Well, what was weird? I was like, where the fuck have I seen this kid before? I've seen him in something.
Yeah, do you have an answer?
Yeah, I figured because I Googled it, bruh.
Right. What is the answer? Because I thought the same thing.
He was in the Hulu original Stephen King adaptation from his JFK novel, where he played the lone gunman, the Harvey Oswald,
right?
Lee Harvey Oswald. So I was like, all right, so you found this kid who played Lee Harvey Oswald 18 months ago, 2 years ago, and then now he's a bomber. Like, I was just like, ugh, oh, this poor kid. Like, this is what he's
weird.
You know what
he's
I mean?
like a fresh faced young kid that's. Now he's being typecasted as like a recurring terrorist.
I know.
Like
I was like, Jesus, man. Ugh. I hope he gets some,
hopefully he's got range.
Yeah. No. Well. Yeah. Let's get him something else. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Like maybe like a lead in like a rom-com or something. You got to soften him.
Something, man.
Yeah. What I will say though with Jigsaw, because you were talking about kind of the future, and there's going to be a Punisher 2. I assume, is that official? I assume they're going to do it.
I would assume. You know what I mean? If you're going to give me more Iron Fist and you're going to give me more of the kind of the rest, and I haven't seen any of the Defenders, so I have no idea, but I can't imagine them not going harder into this. It might have gotten shitty reviews, but I'd be blown away if it didn't do real well, by its numbers.
Oh yeah, no, I'm sure. And I was going to say, somebody who I get nervous about creating shows that have too much backstory. So like if you needed to watch the entire Netflix series, like every single show in order to understand the Punisher, that'd be one thing. Because it's a standalone, I think season 2 is perfectly set up, basically because now we know the whole origin of the villain, and they did it in like a really good way. So like now you're going to watch Jigsaw versus Punisher, and you're going to be kind of invested in both guys already just because of the way season 1 went. I think season 2 is kind of on a tee right now. Yeah, no, I mean, I think they got to do it. Come on, man. I mean, it was written by the dude who wrote all the Hannibal, the series. I mean, there was nothing. Yeah, there's no way they put so much money into that. You got a rising star like Bernthal. You got an insane writer showrunner. Like, there's no way to not do more. Yeah, 100%. All right, so I guess we can come back with the Hulu shows if you want to run me through that. But I guess we'll throw it to Three Billboards. If you want to just give what is your just sort of general take on it, and then we'll throw to the actual segment.
Yeah, so I was really excited about going to see Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. It's getting tons and tons of Oscar buzz, tons of hype. People are saying it's going to, especially with 10 nominations to hand out, it's definitely going to get a Best Picture nod. Frances McDormand in the lead. She's going to get a nod. Sam Rockwell is supposedly getting some Oscar buzz for his supporting role. I don't know. I would go supporting for him probably. I don't know if he did enough to be a leading role. It's going to be interesting to kind of see where that lands. But yeah, it's about a woman who is kind of seeking justice for her daughter who has been raped and killed. And she doesn't feel like the local police. She's in a small town in Missouri. Doesn't feel like the police are they've kind of, from where we start in the movie, the incident happened about a year ago, and she feels like they haven't gotten enough. They haven't gotten enough progress into tracking down her killer. So she goes and rents out these 3 really crappy, cheap billboards that are kind of on the outskirts of town, and basically puts a blame, puts a huge blame on the local police department and the chief by name, and it causes a huge stir in the town because, and I kind of talk about this in the review, the messages on the billboards are one thing in the trailer, and I think they're different, or they weren't shown what they are in the movie. So if you have seen the trailers for this, you can kind of see it's a 3 message thing. So the billboards are like 20 yards apart. They go into them, and it's a bit darker. Ash and I kind of go into this. They cast, Sam Rockwell, funny guy, for the most part. Woody Harrelson, Peter Dinklage. They're all kind of in supporting roles. You don't think it's kind of going to be as dark as it ends up. And, that's what we kind of end up talking about a lot.
All right, cool, man. So we'll throw it to that now. This is David St. Martin and his wife, Ash, talking about Three Billboards. Enjoy.
What's up, guys? Here with Ash. We just saw Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. Not probably the best date movie of all time, but it's, definitely kind of getting some good Oscar buzz for good reason. Very insane movie. Super well done. Enjoyed it. But, definitely a little bit darker than I thought it was going to be.
I agree completely. Definitely left feeling a little bit down, and I was hoping it would be at least have some lighter points throughout.
Yeah, it was, because some of his other movies, the director, Martin McDonough, Seven Psychopaths, has a little bit more humor in it. In Bruges, they're both kind of dark comedies. This is probably the darkest of the 3 kind of that he's super well known for. But it's kind of all over the place. I mean, it's a little bit of, sort of, it has comedic elements, and I think they really kind of cherry picked and put a lot of those in the trailer so that people weren't thinking that they were going to go see something insanely depressing for 2 hours. But yeah, it's, plus you add some people, you put Woody Harrelson in it, you put Sam Rockwell in it, you put Peter Dinklage in it. There's some fun scenes kind of in the previews, and you think, all right, this isn't going to be too bad. And then, man, it's pretty brutal, dude. I mean, to give you a quick plot rundown, Frances McDormand is kind of the lead character. She's Mildred Hayes. She is kind of like she works retail at kind of a local little gift shop, kind of like what you would see kind of in the front of a Cracker Barrel kind of a type thing, kind of like a country store gift shop kind of a thing. Seems pretty grouchy, kind of a curmudgeon. The plot of the movie is that she is dissatisfied with the level of police work in her local community, because they have not caught her daughter's killer and rapist. So she's grumpy for a reason, but she was, we kind of find out later that this is kind of her even before that happened. Maybe not to the degree that she's at right now, but she's always kind of been a little standoffish. So the plot kind of revolves around her renting out some billboards in town. I guess they're outside of the town. It's in the name of the movie. So that obviously pisses off the local law enforcement. Woody Harrelson's your police chief. Sam Rockwell is kind of like a bumbling, kind of underachieving, drunk, doofusy kind of cop. But also kind of a dick cop, because the backdrop of the film is kind of some sort of weird scandal that happened where he's well known in this small community for being the guy that tortured a black guy in an interrogation room to some extent. So he's an interesting part of this movie, because you can't quite decide if he's just a total piece of shit scumbag or if he has a little bit of heart. And his character arc is a little bit interesting kind of throughout the movie. That we're keeping the spoiler free. It's a movie that it's not in a lot of theaters. It's not getting a lot of show times, but it's going to get some Oscar buzz. So we're going to keep it kind of spoiler free. I think Frances McDormand as the lead is pretty incredible. She's great. Right back to kind of her days in Fargo is kind of my favorite role of hers and things like that. But she does a great job. I think we wanted more of some of the other characters. Mm-hmm. Peter Dinklage is kind of heavily featured in the marketing. Not a ton of him in this movie. No. I wish we had a little bit more. Woody Harrelson to an extent, kind of. I don't know. How do you feel?
I mean, I think Woody Harrelson was decently featured into it. I think the role could have been developed a little more, but I was super disappointed that Peter Dinklage wasn't in it more. Yeah, because he's interesting in the previews. He had what seemed to be a funny, interesting kind of member of the community, and it was a lacking role. Like, I feel like he wasn't in there enough.
Yeah, I mean, they probably could have done his entire role in like a day. They could have gotten rid of him, but
for sure.
Very good movie. You're going to see Oscar buzz for Best Picture. Frances McDormand is going to get nominated. Sam Rockwell is getting buzz. I think he's going to get nominated. I don't know that Harrelson is in it enough to get a nomination. But maybe. But Rockwell and Frances McDormand are kind of the focal points of the film throughout. So you're going to see some super crazy push behind them, I would bet.
I would think with Sam Rockwell too, his character development throughout the movie definitely had an evolving character to it, which makes that more of a respectable role, I feel like.
Yeah. No, I mean, we don't want to go too much into we don't want to give too much away and things like that, but I mean, he the kind of the path that his character follows through the film. You hate him, you love him, you hate him, you love him. You're kind of all over the place, and you can't quite decide. I mean, the guy just, the guy is a loose cannon cop, but just kind of a bully asshole cop at times, and then kind of has some redeeming qualities in other parts of the film and things like that. So, great cast. You know what I mean? You got the kid from Manchester by the Sea. He's kind of a rising star. Dinklage, as we said. Harrelson. You've got... who else have we got? No one else really kind of stood out. You've got... It's a pretty small cast. I mean, it would almost make kind of an interesting play. Mm-hmm. Because really, I mean, it's pretty much about maybe 8 characters. You know what I mean? You've kind of got her ex-husband... played by like John Hawkes, he's kind of like a bit character actor. You're going to recognize him from things, but just kind of the dynamic of Frances McDormand and her son, who is played by Lucas Hedges, who's kind of best well known for Manchester by the Sea, and getting his nomination last year for Best Supporting Actor. Kind of the dynamic between their relationship, and he's kind of struggling with his sister's been raped and killed, and so he's dealing with that. But then he's also kind of dealing with this community who's now sort of turned on his mom for putting up these billboards that are, because I guess we're led to believe the time between the incident and the start of the film is like 7 months, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's not quite a long time, you know what I mean, to get over something like that. I mean, it's pretty gruesome. I don't want to, and I think they purposefully kind of either changed what's on the billboards. I could be wrong. Don't hold me to this.
Like they showed the first
one. Right.
The first one explains a big chunk of what happened.
Right. So if you're not kind of familiar, she puts up 3 billboards calling up the police, and there are 3 billboards, probably 20 yards apiece, something like that. Right. So it's kind of a message in 3 parts. And I think they either avoided showing what is on the first billboard, or they've changed it for the marketing materials. I can't remember. Because
what's on it in the movie is not what I remember from the commercials, the trailers.
Yeah. So it's pretty graphic, I'd say. And I can understand why that wouldn't be in commercials and trailers and things like that, especially if the trailer is supposed to be a little bit lighter, which it is. It's definitely lighter.
Sure.
So it's, it's an interesting, I mean, I'm always fascinated with how they kind of market these smaller movies. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Fox Searchlight, you know what I mean? They're going to do some cool stuff, but I'm always interested in how they choose to market these things. This is an Oscar bait film. It made the festival rounds. It's not going to make $100 million at the box office probably, but, it's interesting how they tweak things.
Right.
To get you into the theater, but
yeah, I definitely thought I was going to see something different, and it took a turn.
Yeah.
Not a bad turn, but a turn in general.
Yeah. No, because we were choosing between, should we go see Darkest Hour or 3 Billboards, and we're like, let's go for the little bit lighter one. You know what I mean? And I don't know. I don't think
we chose
Darkest
the
Hour.
right one necessarily for that purpose, but I don't know. I'd recommend it to people who enjoy interesting movies.
Right.
Would I want to necessarily watch it again? Maybe
it's
for plot turns,
it's a single viewing experience, probably.
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah. It's an Oscar bait film, man. You know, it's not super enjoyable at times, but it never felt too long to me.
No, I say it felt a little slow. I kind of was like, how long have we been sitting here? A couple times, which typically means that it's going a little slow, but I mean, it definitely felt like an Oscar movie. Like, I enjoy watching the Oscar movies to be well informed and to understand kind of what these, people make the decisions.
It's upstanding art. You know what I mean? It's go see it. You know, pick it up on video on demand. But it is probably not like a great date night movie. I don't know. No. I wouldn't think so.
I also wouldn't suggest, late night, go to bed afterwards. Your mind may take you down some dark paths. Yeah. But I would recommend people to see it in general.
No, it's weird because, I mean, we're kind of from Virginia, and we were both getting, like, triggered by the small-townness of some of these things. But small-town local police department, we're outside of D.C., so we're not. But we've certainly got, family, friends, relatives that live all kind of out there, you know what I mean? So
it's just concerning because you hear these stories about policemen and stuff, and it hits home. It's a little real. You go, would all this stuff actually happen in real life? Right. Possibly, which is a little concerning.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a little bit out there. There's some weird stuff where Sam Rockwell's character does some things that you're just like, there's no way he would get away with that. There's no way. Yeah. So, it, definitely takes some kind of liberties. You know what I mean? So you kind of have to play it both ways, but interesting movie. Go see it. It's going to be an experience, and you'll definitely hear about them getting some Oscar buzz. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
All right, and we're back. So I guess, do you want to jump into The Hulu, as I said at the beginning, I don't have Hulu.
Why don't you have Hulu?
I don't. It's just I don't know how many subscriptions can I have. So like I've had questions about this as far as Hulu originals, and I guess this is what I want to talk about before we get into the two shows. Sell me on Hulu, because what is the reason? So I have Netflix, I have Amazon Prime, I have HBO Go. What does Hulu provide? Are the originals worth it? Is there something? I know they have TV the next day or whatever, but sell me on it.
It's definitely the weakest out of all of that, and if you had to put something on the chopping block, I would definitely put Hulu. I think it probably has one of the best mixes of kind of current and old stuff. I mean, you can watch. Let's see, I can watch every Adventure Time. I can watch Rick and Morty. I can watch X-Men the animated series. I can watch Bob's Burgers. I can watch Dancing with the Stars if I wanted to, which I don't. But it just has, no.
Shocking.
It just has a ton of, it has a weird mix of stuff. It is the absolute most frustrating and hated interface. It's impossible. Like if you end up getting Hulu, you'll be able to speak to this. Probably a couple months ago, they totally revamped the entire front end of Hulu on computers and iPads and mobile and everything else, and it is impossible to find anything. You cannot browse. Imagine like it'll give you like imagine if Netflix only let you see like one to three things at any given time and trying to find stuff. So you can search, but you cannot browse. It is impossible to browse, and it's a nightmare. But I mean, how
does that happen with like a company that
I don't
big?
know.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I don't know, man. I don't know. It was fine because they were like, "Oh, you want to? Here's a bunch of things." It just looked like Netflix.
Right.
Here's a bunch of new releases. Here's a bunch of things we think you might like, and you can just scroll to the right for infinity of stuff. They totally changed that entire layout. I don't know why they did it. It is absolutely awful. It makes you want to just cancel your subscription. But they are cranking out some original content and things like that. Some of the stuff is big name content. You know what I mean? So I'm hanging on. And, a couple of the shows that I've watched recently and written up reviews. One I really, really enjoyed and loved, and one I pretty much hated.
Well, let's end on a good note. So we'll jump to the one that you hated, which I think I know.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
So if you read the review, you probably know.
Right. So let's get into the Runaways.
Yeah. So the Runaways is and I never read it. So I pointed this out in the review. I've never read Brian K. Vaughan's Runaways. I've read a lot of his stuff. A lot of his stuff I like. Some of it I don't like. I really enjoy Paper Girls. I really have been kind of hit or miss on Saga, which is kind of his big, I don't know, it's probably between Saga and Why the Last Man that are his big, books. But, Runaways was kind of and I think he did those for Image. I think Image did the three that I just mentioned, and then he did Runaways for Marvel. And if you couldn't tell, by the way, Hulu is marketing it, Marvel's Runaways. Marvel's Runaways. That's literally the name of the show. They don't want you to think for a second that this isn't Marvel or forget that it's Marvel. But if you watch it, it doesn't feel anything like Marvel. It sucks. It was. It feels like I'm watching like Power Rangers or something. You know what I mean? Like, but not in a way. Not in a good way. You know what I mean? Like Power Rangers has its moments and things, but like all the crappiness of something like Power Rangers when they're running around like doing a bake sale. That's what the show is basically feels like. Its showrunner and co-creator and everything was the guy who created the OC and Gossip Girl and Heart of Dixie and Dynasty. That's on the CW now.
Right. So they tried to give it, basically by choosing that person, they tried to give it a sort of, like, I don't know how to, I don't know, how do you classify those shows? They're like almost like rom-com series.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a weird, they're like so poorly acted kind of dramas, but they're supposed to be kind of fun. And it's like, oh, it's always just rich, good-looking people struggling through bullshit. Like, that's what the shows are about. You know what I mean? I remember watching The OC back in the day. I've never seen Heart of Dixie. I've never seen Gossip Girl, but I kind of get the gist of it. You know what I mean? So it was a weird choice to kind of hand this over to someone that has that kind of track record, but it has that feel. It has that kind of shitty, just predictable, crappy feel of you don't like any of these characters. You know what I mean? And they're all, and just a quick plot rundown on Runaways. It's about kind of a weird cult of these parents, and I'll make it clear. So Hulu has only put out the first 3 episodes. So my experience with this content is 3 episodes. I don't know why Hulu would do this either. Just give it to me all at once, dude.
Did they release all 3 at once?
I can't remember. I don't know. All I know is that I get another 1 or 3. I mean, it's insane. Just be consistent. I don't care what it is. Give me 1 episode a week, or give me everything at once. But don't do these weird show by show. This one we're doing 3 episodes at once, and then you'll wait. And no, dude. Just make it consistent. But the backdrop is these. Oh, guess what? It's in Beverly Hills, California, Los Angeles.
I literally know nothing about the show, and that's exactly what I would have guessed.
Oh no, I mean, but so it's this weird kind of it's Scientology-esque, kind of this weird cult that these parents are all sort of affiliated with in a way. All the kids are kind of friends, but not really. It's kind of like the classic. They were friends when they were like 8 years old, and then they kind of grew up and seemed to be no longer friends. I mean, they were friends, I guess, when they were a little bit older, but for whatever reason, it makes no sense. They go from, we were friends when we were 8, then we were friends when we were like 12, and then someone died in the friend group for unbeknownst reasons, and now we all just don't even look at each other. So it's like, why would the death of one of your core group result in you not talking to each other? And they're all kind of like a stereotype. I think it's like 6 kids. They're all rich, so they're like, their marketing is like, whoa, these kids are all from very different backgrounds and have to band together. And they're not. They're just rich kids, but they're just different versions of shitty rich kids. One is your jock. One is like a super feminist, like save the world chick who is trying to take down the patriarchy. One is like a super religious girl that's plugged into her parents' weird cult. Another one's like a super goth girl. And it's like, yeah, dude, like we've seen this shit before.
I bet in the end they all learn something from each other.
They all learn something. Yeah. And then, it sucks, dude. I don't know. I was so disappointed. Because the Runaways has been in my like Amazon wish list for like years. You know what I mean? I just kind of never got around to reading it. I don't know. It's basically the first couple episodes. I don't want to spoil anything, but this is larger plot points that you'll discover if you Google it. This is what the trailer shows. They kind of discover that their parents. They kind of discover their parents are sort of like, doing some evil deeds behind the scenes that have some sort of weird supernatural elements and blah, blah, blah. The first 3 episodes are so underwhelming that I'm like, I don't know if I really care to go on. It's just so poorly acted. You don't really care about any of the characters. The parents, you've got to deal with 6 main characters, who are all kind of whiny or unlikable, just kind of rich kids. I mean, these are the kids that I grew up around. You know what I mean? Northern Virginia, senators' kids, diplomats' kids. I'm getting triggered here. You know what I mean? Just kind of like, gross. Yeah. Their parents are even worse. One is like, I'm an asshole inventor. I'm an asshole lawyer. I'm an asshole, pharmaceutical rep, inventor, scientist. Like you don't care about, I'm an asshole real estate person. Like you don't really enjoy anything about any of these characters. So you've got to deal with 6 kids, and then each of those kids, except one, has a set of parents. So that's 10 more main character. You know what I mean? So you're lost in these scenes of just like, who are these people? Why do I care? You don't. So that's my take on Runaways.
All right, and Future Man, which hopefully you said you have a higher opinion of. Now that, first of all, real quick, having not have Hulu, I don't even know what this show is. I've never, until you texted me that we want to talk about, I had to Google it to figure out what it is. It's got the kid from Hunger Games. I didn't know anything about it. So help me out.
So Future Man, I'm not going to, no spoilers here. I'm just going to sell it. But Future Man is one of the sort of happiest surprises that I've seen all year. Because everything, and I say this in my review, nothing about the marketing materials for this is, it doesn't do it justice. It almost does it a disservice. You think, like, the way they cut the promos and the trailers for this make it look like just another Seth Rogen dick joke, shitty kind of like throwaway, crappy original, like Hulu original, goofy dog shit show. And it's not. I mean, it's really good. I don't really, it's imagine, or basically the subplot of this whole thing is that this kid is sort of like, basically what they do is this 13 episodes, they end up ripping off kind of like every great sort of fantasy, sci-fi, 80s, 90s movie. They just totally rip it off, but in like a fun way where they even joke about it. You know what I mean? So the premise of the show is that this kid who is a janitor, he's 23 years old. He's Josh Hutcherson, who's kind of famous for being in the Hunger Games movies. He is kind of like, lives at home with his parents, doesn't have a girlfriend, kind of struggling, doesn't know what he wants to do with his life, is just working a shitty dead-end job as a janitor at a medical facility that is trying to discover the cure for herpes. Okay, because the patriarch of the company has herpes, and it's played by Keith David, who you would recognize in a million different things. He's I don't know. I always think of him as the voice of Spawn in the HBO animated series. That's kind of my biggest thing. But like, he does a ton of voice acting. He's like Lana Kane's dad on Archer. I mean, I'm picking like deep cuts of his, but you would he was one of the last guys to survive in The Thing, if you remember that movie with Russell Crowe. Right. He's just in everything. Like Keith David, Google the guy, you'll see him. And basically, so Josh plays this video game, which is kind of like Halo or any of these other kind of first-person shooters. He ends up beating the game, which is like impossible. That triggers an event that sends these two kind of resistance fighters back in time to rendezvous with this kid, because beating the game is proof that he's like the ultimate warrior. So these time travelers are kind of a combination of the dude who comes back in Terminator. I can't remember the character's name. So they're, but similar to that, where he has to come back in time to save Sarah Connor from being killed by the Terminator. Okay, so they're kind of dressed like the Road Warrior. They're super intense. They have their own kind of dialogue and kind of their own way of speaking about things. They call their mouths rat holes because that they eat rats. They live in sewers. It's a dystopian future similar to like Terminator 2. You know what I mean? So what they're trying to prevent is kind of a Skynet type reality that is triggered by finding the cure for herpes. You know what I mean? So this kid is working at the facility, and the two people that come back, there's a male and a female kind of lead character, Tiger and Wolf, are kind of a combination of what Sarah Connor in Terminator 2 and almost like a Mad Max Road Warrior type, just dressed in leather and killing people and savagery, and it's insane. They make fun of tons and tons of pop culture movies. They go back and forth in time trying to kill the doctor at different stages of his life, and always kind of end up fumbling it or having to go back and forth and things like that. So It's really, really fun. It's really incredible. It's well written. It's well made. It's well acted. There's tons of great cameos. Ed Begley Jr. is in it. He's incredible. Haley Joel Osment's in it. Paul Scheer is in it. I mean, it just... I'm trying to remember his name. Martin Starr, who is kind of the crazy guy from Silicon Valley. He's kind of... I'm trying to remember the character's name. You know who I'm talking about, though?
Yeah, it's Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm blanking on his name, too. But he's also in, like, Freaks and Geeks. He's in a bunch of Seth Rogen movies.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's incredible, man. Like, and I felt bad. I was like, ugh, God, I don't even want to put the trailer in this review because someone's going to be like, no, this sucks. I mean, it looks terrible. Like, the premise is terrible. It looks bad. I'm just saying, and I say this in the review, that just I dare you to just ignore everything, man, and just watch this. Watch the first couple episodes. Hey, man, hit me up on Twitter. Tell me I'm completely full of shit. I think it was incredible. I laughed. I don't laugh out loud about anything, pretty much, but it's laugh out loud funny for most people who aren't, broken. But dude, watch it. Not you, but because you don't like Hulu, but
I don't dislike it. It's just, it's do I want to invest in another subscription? I probably will, to be honest with you. I'm a TV guy. I watch a lot of TV shows.
I don't know how you don't have this.
Yeah, I know. Guilfoyle, by the way. That's his name.
Guilfoyle. There you go. Yeah, no, it's really fucking good, dude. And if you think less of me for loving the show, then by all means, here we are. All my cards are on the table, people. You know what I mean? It's incredible, dude. And the hidden gem of this kind of thing is this kind of weird detective who is following their journey all throughout the series. And at different points in his career, and he's going insane, and he lets his kind of following of this case drive him insane and ruin his career. And he never kind of abandons hope that he's going to solve this case. And I don't want to get more into what kind of it involves with him and things like that, but it's so funny and so well done that it's probably one of my favorite kind of 30-minute shows. It's super hard R, tons of raunchy humor. It's great. I mean, if that's what you want, this is great. Watch it. Awesome,
man. I'm sold. At the very least, I'll use my free trial for Hulu. Actually, I might have burned that at some point in the past. We'll see. But I'll probably end up getting Hulu. We'll see. Maybe it's a Christmas gift. I don't know.
There you go.
All right. Well, yeah, that'll do it. So check out thedisorderly.com. We're doing the Spotlight, which is the sort of daily recap of all the news and notes from the entertainment world, and then the Highlight, which is a recap of all the sports news from the day before. David St. Martin, he's doing all that stuff. We're still doing TV reviews, movie reviews, pretty consistently, album reviews here and there. Just any sort of interesting breaking news, but not your sort of mainstream stuff that you see sort of off the beaten path. So you changed the Twitter name, right? What is it now?
I changed it to, so this was back when we had 140 characters, and because I picked it and I was like, listen, you want this to be as short as possible. And then when it opened up, I was like, oh, well let me just expand it to something I actually want. Because now I don't have to worry about characters for all the headlines and all the permalinks and all that crap. So it's just technical nonsense. But yeah, the new Twitter handle, it's been out for, I think it's been this way for a week or two, but it's just at Disorderly Media.
Okay, is that Facebook too, or is it still Disorderly ENT?
I think it's still Disorderly ENT on
Facebook. By the way, no one goes to direct links anyway. Just just type in the Disorderly on the search bar. You'll find it.
I'll change it just for the hell of it. But yeah, it's no one uses those. They never really caught on. I don't know why, but the at whatever your username on Facebook never really caught on.
Yeah, no, for sure. But yeah, head over there, check all that out. I think. And the reason I want to talk about it in this episode is because I want to finish it before we get into it, but I'm really enjoying Godless so far. I think I just finished episode 3. Was there 7 total? So we should definitely talk about that next episode.
Of Godless?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think I'm in the tail end of the second episode. So yeah, that'll probably, and I'll try as I may.
Yeah, whenever you finish. I'm probably going to write a review on it when I'm done, so expect that sometime this week too, but I like it a lot. You recommended it, and then my friend Nate, who you guys will hear at some point in a future episode, he texted me too, and it's very rare that I'll get 2 different recommendations from people who are obviously involved pretty heavily in this stuff. And I was like, oh yeah, all right, I'll check it out, and it was great. So so far.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably the best kind of Western brutal thing I've seen since like Deadwood. You know what I mean? And I watch some brutal Western shit. Have you seen Homesman? I think they just put that on Netflix, or it just popped up somewhere. That's one of those absolutely freaking brutal Blood Meridian style kind of old Western movies, you know?
Yeah, no, I'll check it out though.
It's horrible. It's horrible.
All right, well, more on that in a future episode. Yeah, that'll do it. So thank you guys for listening. As always, we're going to keep pumping these out. Please like, subscribe, tell a friend, give us a comment, review, whatever. Just spread the word on this thing. And yeah, we'll talk to you guys soon. Take it easy.